Alright, so we got a new look at the Black Ops 7 campaign over at Gamescom. And there's a lot to digest, and I'm not going to be able to cover everything here in this video, but I do want to talk about some of the things that I liked, some of the things that I think look promising, and some of the things that actually left me a little bit disappointed. Now, there's a lot that you can see in this review. You know, you have developers talking about how excited they are, how they're looking to push boundaries, how they're looking to try different things, you know, do different things when it comes to Call of Duty, and do stuff that we've maybe never seen before. They talked about the co-op campaign, they talked about the story beats of the game and how they're going to not just involve like real life events that are going on in the characters' worlds, but things that are also happening in their minds and their psyche. You get a deeper look at David Mason and his new team. You have Harper, you have Samuels, and you have another character. Now, I was told that that might be Karma, but that doesn't look like Karma to me, so that might have been wrong information or not. That might actually be Karma, but she just looks completely different than she did when we first saw her. So I'm not too sure about that, but we also got to see small glimpses of Emma Kagan, the CEO of the guild. We got to see more small glimpses of David Mason and his team in the cinematics, in different cutscenes throughout the game, and I think they look very good. The cutscenes, they look awesome. Like, that's something that we can't deny when it comes to Call of Duty, when it comes to Black Ops. Even Black Ops 6 cutscenes looked amazing, and Black Ops 7s are keeping up with that, if not even getting better. They revealed a look at Troy Marshall, which I thought was really cool. I instantly got happy when I saw Troy Marshall because Troy Marshall felt like he was supposed to be the next big thing for Black Ops. He was a big part, a big focal point, or the focal point of Black Ops 6. I thought that he was going to be our playable character when he first got announced, and I thought he was going to do much more than he did in Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and the story that followed it. In Warzone, Troy Marshall wasn't really prevalent. He wasn't really there to do anything. He never even spoke. And I thought that it was wasted potential. But now in Black Ops 7, you see Troy Marshall talking to David Mason at a graveyard where Marines and other military personnel have passed away. And that's the same graveyard, if I do remember correctly, where Alex Mason is buried, David Mason's dad. And we get to see glimpses of the burial site for Frank Woods. So finally Frank Woods is dead. I mean, that was not, we're not saying finally like we're happy that he's dead, but it was a long time coming. Like, Frank Woods had been through a lot. He had just aged and he never died. So you finally get to see Frank Woods rest, finally get to see him leave the world, and Troy Marshall, his protege, the guy that he was mentoring, a very close friend of him. They went through a lot in the 90s and potentially in the 2000s. Troy Marshall is there now guiding David Mason even more in his later years, because at this point Troy Marshall would probably, and I'm spitballing here, would probably be around his 70s, maybe 80s. I don't think 80s, but 70s. He looks very good for his age, and you get to see David Mason there talking to him. Now, David Mason in this campaign is 56 years old, so he's not, you know, a kid or anything like that, but Troy Marshall may have a lot of experience in what's going on in the mental side of things and the psyche side of things, that he can give some advice to David Mason and guide him onto what to do next. He has experience with the guild. He fought the guild. He fought Pantheon. You know, he was there when the guild maybe rose again. He probably is going to talk to David Mason about Savati Dumas and her role in it and how the guild turned into what it is today. So there's a lot of information, a lot of intelligence that Troy Marshall can relay to David Mason. And I think seeing those two characters together interact, David Mason and Troy Marshall, is going to be awesome. And I honestly cannot wait to see more. I really hope that Troy Marshall doesn't just cameo. I hope that he's a bigger part of the campaign, maybe playing a role similar to Frank Woods did in Black Ops 2, where we revisit him multiple times, or he has his own section that's dedicated to him and the exploits of Black Ops 6 and how they are affecting Black Ops 7. Now, some other things that we did see is David Mason and his team trying to attack Avalon, or trying to infiltrate Avalon, and infiltrated the guild. There might be a discussion between Emma Kagan and David Mason about what to do, about the chaos that Raul Menendez unleashed after he died. The chaos of Raul Menendez and the uprising of all of his followers is going to be a big central talking point in the campaign. And I think whatever happened after that leads to the guild wanting to portray themselves as the hero, or portray themselves as the only ones that can, you know, stand between them and the bad things that are happening around the world. They are pinning themselves as the last line of defense for the world. And the developers that were at Gamescom today mentioned that the guild and David Mason's team, so Emma Kagan and David Mason in particular, aren't necessarily battling each other in a good versus evil fight. They're battling each other on an idea of philosophy. They know what's coming, and they differ in how to handle it. Maybe Emma Kagan and the guild think that having this very powerful force and all of these robots be set up outside of every major institution of the world so they can sit there as like the protector. Maybe that's what Emma Kagan thinks the guild should be for the world. But David Mason maybe feels that the military or the US or the governments or the countries should take care of their people rather than have this big private military corporation type of thing place themselves as the protectors, when that's not what the right thing would be, because too much power could lead to something terrible. We saw what happened with the Atlas Corporation in Call of Duty Advanced Warfare. There's a challenge there of what should we do. And you see Emma Kagan defend her actions to potentially David Mason in a conversation that they're having, and that's when we got to see a look at them. And they look freaking incredible. We also got to see a little bit of gameplay mixed in with the campaign. And the gameplay looks awesome. Some of the cutscenes where, you're entering a building, and this is, I would assume, in a campaign, it looks very beautiful. The areas look very well lit. The red is a very prevalent color throughout the whole trailer, and it kind of shows you that there's a lot going on that you might not understand from the beginning. Now, there's some things I really did not like, so we will get to that in a moment. I'm not kissing ass here for Black Ops, but I did like a lot of what I saw. We talked about this in my previous video where I mentioned that there might be, or there had been traction, that a theory out there stated that the campaign happened in the head of David Mason a lot, and that's where they could take liberties in creating these really crazy missions and just going out of the box and doing things differently than they would in a traditional military campaign like they do with Modern Warfare and things like that. Now, in one of the sections of the campaign, you see David Mason arrive in Avalon. You see them enter the guild headquarters potentially, and when they enter this room, they get locked in. This red smoke comes down and it sprays them all over. Him and his whole team. Harper, Samuels, and the other lady that may or may not be Karma get hit with this gas. And this gas makes them hallucinate. Then you see a cutscene or a little glimpse of somebody sitting on a chair tied up. So maybe they get hit with this smoke, they get captured, they get tied up, and now they start hallucinating. And you start seeing the room kind of open up, get big, stretch, twirl, and it gets all crazy. And then Harper tries to help them up. They try to escape. The room begins to deteriorate. The floor begins to break down, and it just goes batshit crazy there. From that point on, you get to see Alaska, you get to see Tokyo, you get to see other areas that we've played, other maps, other missions that we've played in previous games like Black Ops 2. And so here you get to see maybe that each member of the team is kind of going to go through their own thing. Like David Mason is going to go through his own issues. Harper, Samuels, everybody is going to be visiting and being stuck in these memories that they had. And all of that is going to be devastating because they're clearly affected by the events that happened in 2025 and maybe other things that occurred in between those time periods. So you get to see a lot of that. We also got to see them visit Nicaragua. We got to see them visit Los Angeles. So they're even going back to things that they weren't even a part of, because Nicaragua is where Raul Menendez was, where they tried to capture him and where his sister was killed by Frank Woods, Alex Mason, and Hudson. Obviously, David Mason and Harper were not part of that, but they're seen in Nicaragua. So maybe the guild has some information. Maybe the guild were able to get Raul Menendez's body and somehow take out some of his memories and plant them in this device that they can use to their benefit. So there's a lot of crazy shit going on here. Clearly, I mean, that is just very out there. And it, we don't put it past Black Ops to do things like this. So there's a lot of issues there, and there's a lot of interesting things that could happen with this campaign with Black Ops. There's a lot of things that I already liked. Like I said, I liked, some of the maps. I liked some of the characters there. I think it's going to be really good. We get to see Milo, the new actor for David Mason, in action a little bit more. Again, I'm not going to trip here too much, but I would have loved to see the original come back. Sadly, he is not coming back, and now we get to see Milo do his thing. His acting looks phenomenal. He looks like he is going to deliver an outstanding performance and potentially one of the best performances a character has given in a Call of Duty campaign. I think, although that is high praise, and that is very high expectations for the character and the actor alone, I think that it's warranted because of the caliber of actor that he is and what he can bring to this type of role. I think that's going to be very, very interesting. And from what I've seen, I'm liking it a bit more than Black Ops 6. I wasn't a huge fan of Black Ops 6 and all of its craziness. And although this seems like it's going to be even more out there, I think the setting and the characters are just better suited for what may come next. Now, there's this thing that the developers mentioned called Endgame. Now, I'm not sure what they meant by this, but they talked about Endgame being this big extraction mode where you could play in the campaign and you could play in Avalon, and it's going to be accessible throughout the whole map of Avalon, and you're going to be able to put everything that you've learned to the test in this mode called Endgame. Now, what they didn't differentiate is Endgame the final mission of the game, or is Endgame the separate mode that you can access in the campaign? If Endgame is the final mission of the game, then what I saw was really crazy. I mean, it's basically like that leak that the final mission for Black Ops 7 was going to be like this battle royale extraction mode type of thing, and I think that's what that might have been. So maybe it's not the final mission, it's actually this new mode called Endgame that you can access through the campaign. I'm not too sure about that. But what I did see in that mode is this zombie looking like characters running towards David Mason and his team, and you shot at them, tried to kill them. When I saw that, my first reaction was to cuss, because I was not liking that at all. One of the things that I hated the most from the Black Ops 6 campaign was all of the zombies in the campaign. I don't want to see zombies in the fucking campaign. I'm sorry, I just don't want to. That's not what I signed up for when I play the campaign. I don't care for zombies there. So seeing undead creatures, undead-like zombie type of creatures appear in the Black Ops 7 marketing for the campaign and seeing them run towards the team, that honestly looked awful, and it kind of gave me flashbacks, PTSD, whatever you want, for those terrible missions that we received in Black Ops 6, at least in my opinion. So that is something that I'm very cautious about, curious about, and I'm not a fan of right off the bat. I really hope that we don't get to see any undead or any zombies in the campaign at all. I think the mind-bending things where David Mason gets captured and he's hallucinating all these things, I think that's cool. I think you could do that, but keep it within the realms of like possibility. Like, he's fighting other soldiers from different eras, or he's fighting enemies that are true to what happened. Like, if he's in LA, he's fighting the enemies from LA. If he's in Nicaragua, he's fighting the armies that were in Nicaragua. That type of stuff. We don't want to see, or I don't want to see, undead things. You know, that's not what I signed up for when I talk about the campaign. And so that kind of scared me, kind of disappointed me, kind of left me with a feeling. But everything besides that looked really good, to be quite honest. Now, some other things that came out is that the Call of Duty Next event is going to be revealing more about the campaign, more about the multiplayer, and more about the zombies. That's going to be taking place on September 30th. So that's something to keep an eye out for. Overall, I was pretty happy with what I saw. I see a lot of potential in Black Ops 7, but I also see a path where they completely mess it up and it's bad. And at least from my personal taste, it's like another Black Ops 6. I really hope that that's not the case. I am going to go back and review everything new that came out, find little things if I can, and maybe we'll talk about it more this week, about the little details and things that I might have missed. If there's any recommendations or anything that you guys found in the trailer, please let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.